In the name of good versus evil, there are countless cases out there that highlight what humans are truly capable of. One such case is our subject today. The Petit family were an honest, hardworking family, but would eventually fall victim to two individuals who were born into cruel circumstances. Together, these two decided they were going to prey on the more fortunate than them. And slowly, their desire for causing harm became more satiable until one horrible event left one member of the Petit family wishing they had done more to stop the violence as they grieved over the death of all their loved ones. This is the brutal and infamous case known as the Cheshire murders. My name's Ben.
I'm Nicole, and you're listening to Wicked and Grim,
A true crime podcast.
Warning, the following podcast contains graphic content and material intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
So I just spilled coffee all over my lap, and I just did it again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is not something to pour from. I've done it before on the show.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I love how you just wipe it on your pants.
Well, there's already coffee on them, and they're just like ratty jeans. It's just going to add to the hipster used feel of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're worth more money now.
Instead of opening beer, we're pouring coffee. Hey,
we are. This case has been. I just dropped my towel now. This case has been something that's taken me a long time to research. There's a lot to it. So this is going to be a two-parter because of that. I was hoping to cram it all into one episode last night and finish it off, but I can't do it. I can't keep it into one episode. So
Well, yeah, sometimes it doesn't do the case justice either.
Exactly. That's exactly why I'm splitting it up, because if I were to just put it into one, I would be missing so much. So yeah.
I'm listening to a case right now that's literally 13 parts.
Damn.
And
who's covering that? Do you know? Can you remember?
Oh, man. I think it's 13 hours, or I don't even know what the heck. I think it's global. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. So it's more like a docuseries.
Yeah,
okay.
kind of. But because I'm going to be covering this podcast, but I might be just doing this podcast in one episode. So am I doing it injustice? But there's just so much more they're diving into, that we normally wouldn't. So,
well, there you can do those deep dives, but a lot of the time, you are covering a lot of minute information that's not necessary or repetitive information.
Yeah, I've been noticing too. They're mentioning things a few times, and I'm like, I've heard this already. So
yeah,
but
this one, there's just a long linear story that goes along with it. So we're going to start off. We won't talk a whole lot on this beginning intro. We'll just get right into this episode. But I will tell you that we are going to be kind of starting off introducing to the family and then introducing the perpetrators and kind of building up to what led to the event itself. And I do think a lot of that is really important to understand what happened and why it happened in this case. And it's really unfortunate that it played out the way that it did. But yeah.
Okay.
I know this was one that's been on my radar for a while. This is a more popular case. A lot of you out there probably already know of this one. But yeah, we're gonna do this. You ready?
Yeah. Let's do her.
You've heard of this one, right? The Cheshire family murders?
I have, but I don't think I've ever looked into it or listened to a podcast or anything on it. So
gotcha.
Probably mostly new for me too.
Well, I do know originally why it caught my attention was the name, the Cheshire murders, Cheshire family murders, because the Cheshire cat, right? From Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Alice in Wonderland or the Cheshire cat. It just happens to take place in some a city or town called Cheshire.
Okay.
So yeah, there's no affiliation, just a heads up with that. There's no double entendre, planned words or anything. Just simply, that's the town.
Okay.
All right. So let's dive into this. The Petit family is where we're going to start. So the Petit family was a close-knit family of four, made up of the father, Dr. William Petit, his wife, the mother, Jennifer Petit, and their two daughters, Haley and Michaela. Now, they were a well-respected family. They were honest, loving family who lived in a modest life, right? And of course, where do you think they lived? In Cheshire.
How do you say it? Cheshire? Cheshire.
Well, I've heard two pronunciations for it. Cheshire or Cheshire.
Cheshire.
So either way, I'll probably be flip-flopping throughout this because I think Cheshire is going to be how I'll say it, but I might stray a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's Cheshire, New Haven County in Connecticut, USA. Now, by all accounts, the Petits were fairly normal, blending into their middle kind of class neighborhood, a simple 2-story home at 300 Saugham Mill Drive. Now, I do want to highlight the fact that I did say it's a middle class neighborhood. It's a simple 2-story home, but it's probably a little bit nicer than you're imagining. Think like, the house from Home Alone. Kind of like that, but a little bit smaller. So it's like that's a fucking nice house.
Yeah,
quite nice, modest home. But I mean, being that, for example, the father was a doctor, they definitely did have some extra income, but they lived modest for their life that they did lead. So
there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like
no, not at all.
Sometimes people think they need this mansion of a house to look like they're successful.
No, they definitely had a nice house. They could have had nicer for sure.
Yeah.
But they had a nice house, but it was fairly modest for them. It's totally
That's
fine.
great. Yeah.
And I am highlighting this because it is actually an important part of this story.
Oh, okay.
So now, Dr. William Petit, who was 50 years old, was an endocrinologist, which means that he specialized in diabetes and metabolic disorders. So a lot of times he's helping diagnose and treat people with those sort of diseases. He was also a very well-regarded individual in his field and was known for his compassionate care towards his patient. He really took care when dealing with them. Outside of work, though, he was also a very dedicated husband and father who deeply involved himself in his daughters' lives and their activities. His wife, Jennifer Petit, who was 48 years old, was a nurse and a co-director of the health center at the Cheshire Academy, which is a private boarding school. Now, she was very kind and deeply dedicated to her family as well, and the community, actively participating in local charitable organizations and community events, even despite living with the diagnosis of MS, or multiple sclerosis. So that is something that many people do suffer with, and it is a deteriorative type disease. So she was, dealing with that, and she's still making sure that she's out there, not only with the family, but in the community, doing what she can.
That's really impressive. Good for her.
Now, their oldest daughter, Haley Petit, was 17 years old, and she was an intelligent and very ambitious young woman. She was a top student at Miss Porter's School, a prestigious girls' prep school where she excelled academically and athletically alike. Now, though, she was preparing to attend the private Ivy League Research University of Dartmouth in Hanover, New Hampshire during her upcoming fall semester. So she was just graduating from that prep school and was soon going to be attending Dartmouth. Haley was passionate about helping others and actively involved in fundraising for multiple sclerosis research, as we obviously know it's something that's near and dear to the family, right?
This family seems terrific.
They seem like they are like Hollywood picture perfect.
Yeah.
So
like I'm already kind of obsessed with them.
Yeah. Now, as such, it isn't surprising to learn that she was planning to follow in her parents' footsteps in the medical field as well. Now, I'm not too sure which career she planned on going, whether it was nursing, whether it was doctor, whether it was research. I don't know. But she was planning to target that medical field one way, shape, or form. Now, Michaela Petit, who was 11 years old, the youngest daughter, who was affectionately known as KK or KK Rosebud by her family. I don't know what the nickname, where it comes from. It seems to be a very private kind of nickname. In any article where it was referenced, it was simply just referencing her as such, and there was no ever explanation given.
Well, it's freaking adorable.
I know, KK Rosebud.
Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. She was a bright and vibrant young girl. She attended the Chase Collegiate School, where she was known for her kindness and enthusiasm for learning. Now, Michaela also had a budding passion for cooking, enjoying time in the kitchen with her mother, and also tending the garden that they had, where she was able to grow fresh ingredients to actually, go from like farm to table sort of thing, learn the whole process. So
wow. At 11, that's really awesome.
at 11, I have a feeling that she was going to be diving into a cooking field in her future for sure. Now, together, the family shared a very close bond, as their home in Cheshire, Connecticut was a place of warmth, love, and laughter. However, the events that would soon unfold within the happy home that the Petits had built would soon have locals in utter disbelief and calling the event the Cheshire 9/11.
Dang.
Now, I do want to highlight this, though their intent is not to compare the incident with 9/11 or take awareness away from those atrocities that took place in New York City that day. Their intent is simply to put words into just how shocking it was for them to feel this happened so close to home in Cheshire. For them, it felt like 9/11 had just happened.
Okay.
But just before we get into that horrific crime, the one that occurred on July 23rd, 2007, we need to first take a look at the individuals who go on to commit the brutal acts. So we just introduced to the Petit family. Now we're going to introduce you to Joshua Andrew Komisarjevsky. Now, Joshua was born on August 10th, 1980 in Cheshire, Connecticut. And he entered the world to a young mother and a father who was barely out of his teens. And I believe the mother was only 16 years old herself. As such, he was put up for adoption and was adopted at about 2 weeks old by Benedict and June Komisarjevsky, which is where he would eventually get his last name. Now, the former being the son of a renowned theater director. There we go. Theatrical is the word I was trying to say.
I thought that was what it was, but
theatrical director, Theodore Komisarjevsky, and dancer, Ernest Stodel. Now, Joshua's early life was fraught with difficulties. In the early 1990s, his sister actually accused him of sexual assault, an allegation that led to his conviction. Now, during his trial, in the penalty phase, his father actually admitted that the accusations were more than likely true.
oh no.
Yes. Academically and socially, Joshua struggled significantly as he grew older. His adoptive parents, who held strong religious belief, often sought solutions. That's almost a tongue twister there. Often sought solutions through their faith rather than through physiological counseling or psychological counseling, which they basically flat out distrusted. So their trust relied heavily on spiritual with their religion rather than actually seeking a doctor. And though I'm not going to say, one is better than the other or one is going to work and one isn't going to, I think certainly one needs to explore both paths. If you do believe in one, then I think you need to make sure that you should maybe, at times look at the other as well.
Yeah.
And I think Joshua definitely needed the latter in his life.
Yeah, it sounds that way for sure.
Now, Joshua's criminal activities began at the young age of 14 when he committed his first burglary. Now, by 2002, he had been arrested for a total of 18 home invasions.
Dang.
His defense attorney noted that Joshua could recall every single detail of his crimes with remarkable precision.
Wow.
I can't remember. I think it's called an eidetic memory. I don't know if he's actually been diagnosed with it. I don't know if diagnosed is the right word, but I don't know if he has actually been said to specifically have it, but he's definitely showing signs of it because he was able to identify the exact amounts of money he would steal in the exact denominations from the specific houses on the specific dates, even the locations in the homes where he found it.
Really?
If he found it in a wallet, he was able to tell you the type of jeans the wallet was in, what the wallet was like, every fucking detail. He was able
Holy shit.
relive those things.
I can't remember shit, so that's
I know.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's incredible. He had an incredible mind.
Well, but imagine how much space that's taking up too in there,
100%.
That's overwhelming too.
With an incredible mind, generally you also encounter incredible troubles. And I think that's what Joshua was experiencing. He had a lot of troubled things going on in his head along with these gifts or curses. I'm sure you could attribute them either way.
Well, yeah, because that just made me think too, lots of times people who say are in school or whatever and they're not being challenged, they like end up getting in trouble or something, right? Because
Yep.
like with a mind like that, I think you have to be you have to have some sort of challenge that will like, I'm describing this terribly, but you know
Keep
what
you occupied.
Yeah.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Well,
keep your mind occupied. Yeah.
It's funny because we're watching, I don't know if anyone out there has actually seen this series. It's
Yeah,
called
I'm
Shameless.
literally thinking of that one too.
So there's a character called Lip where in high school, he just didn't even have to try.
Mm-hmm.
So he was getting into so much trouble because he didn't have to try at all. He wasn't challenged. And then they're a bit of an impoverished family. So he managed to get a full ride scholarship through college, and he goes to college, and all of a sudden he's not smart anymore.
Well, yeah, he has to put some effort in for sure.
Yeah. And as soon as he has to try and apply himself, he changes. It's like he's not like this bad kid roaming the streets getting into shit anymore. I mean, of course, he's doing the odds and ends here, but it's the same sort of story. When you don't apply yourself, you get bored and you look to do something, entertain yourself or challenge yourself. And I think that's a big thing for Joshua is maybe not, he wasn't being challenged, but there was things going on in his head that he was trying to at least occupy.
For sure.
Now, Joshua did admit to his attorney after robbing these houses that he would often watch the occupants as they slept as well, finding satisfaction in violating their sense of security.
Eek, that is the worst.
Which I think, to me, takes us right back to what we were talking about. I think he's occupying his mind with like, I can do these things and there's nothing you can do about it. And also the ability to just watch someone sleep and the calmness that might have come over his so full mind with all these details and things in his head.
I guess, but God, that's just...
It's disturbing as fuck, but I think for him, it was basically Zen.
Yeah, it makes sense, actually.
Now, sometimes he would actually break in, specifically not even to steal anything, simply to experience this thrill of invading someone's home. He would often even rearrange items in unsettling ways, put something here and over there.
Just to play with their mind, eh?
Just to play with their minds when they woke up in the morning and say, I don't know, a plant is from their living room is now in the middle of their dining room table. I don't know if he did that. That's just a sporadic thing I threw out there. But as an example, what the fuck would be someone's first thought when they woke up in the morning, right?
No kidding. So. Yeah, it would like that would just fuck with you for weeks probably.
Oh, probably for
wondering
life.
if you're like sleepwalking or what's going on or
for
whatever.
life. I would be on my deathbed. Remember that fucking time that plant just appeared in the middle of the table in the
Oh my
morning?
gosh, that would drive me. It would drive me nuts.
Yeah,
like
I would,
nuts.
I would 100% go insane.
Yeah.
100%. That's kind of what Joshua was doing. And in December of 2002, he was finally convicted on 12 counts of burglary and was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Judge James Bentaviggen, I'm pretty sure I got the name as close as I'm going to get it, but I'm going to try it again. Bentaviggen. There we go.
Okay.
Described him during the sentencing as calculated, cold-blooded predator.
Oh, wow. Hey?
Yes. And I do think that is a very good description, especially the calculated part.
Yeah. Okay, but so at this point, he has what he's being charged with is break and enters. And
he did have the sexual.
Oh, for his sister, right?
Yeah. But now it's just the 12 counts of burglary.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was sentenced to 9 years in prison. But it would be 5 years later in 2007 when Joshua was paroled. And after his release, he stayed in the Silliman halfway house. And it would be there that he would eventually meet an individual by the name of Hayes.
Gosh, 5 years does not seem like enough time to change your ways, eh?
I don't know. I mean, it's for burglary. Hey, maybe.
Maybe, I guess.
For if you're doing something a little bit like more like murder, yeah, fuck no. So I don't know. I don't know if I really know enough to make a comment on that. Because I think someone could actually rehabilitate themselves, but I think it's going to be circumstantial per person.
That's true. But I mean, gosh, from 9 to 5 years, that's interesting.
Well, regardless, though, Hayes was an individual who was born by the name of Stephen Joseph Hayes, but they now go by the name of Linda Hayes. And for the purpose of this story, I will be referring to them by their last name, Hayes. And for the record, I found conflicting reports on their now chosen identifying gender and could not find solid confirmation on what their gender identification is now. So I'm going to be doing my best to use they, them, and just refer to them as their last name. So Hayes' early life was marred by significant dysfunction and abuse. Raised in a household where physical and sexual abuse were, unfortunately, relatively common, Hayes struggled from a young age. They first faced legal trouble as an adult in 1980 at the age of 16 and were paroled in 1982. And Hayes violated that parole conditions within 7 weeks, so it didn't take long. And over the years, Hayes began dealing in substance abuse as well, and was arrested nearly a total of 30 times, spending the majority of this period behind bars.
Holy shit.
And much like Joshua, Hayes had a lust for theft, often done in order to help support their life of drug use. And in 2004, Hayes was arrested for smashing a car window with a rock and stealing a woman's purse from inside the vehicle. By 2006, Hayes found themselves on parole and was sent to the Silliman halfway house, which is where they crossed paths with Joshua.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, at 30 times, you feel like there's just got to be something that kind of keeps you in jail a little bit longer to kind of get your shit together, because that is just such a waste of resources too, hey?
Well, and there's a difference between committing a crime 30 times and being arrested 30 times. Because don't get me wrong, like, they're both fucking bad. But if you do a burglary 30 times in a row, you're only going to be like, hey, I can keep doing this. I'm getting away with it. You get cocky, and then you finally get caught, and it's like, okay, reality checks in. Mm-hmm. You get arrested. Yeah, you can't do that anymore. You now have a criminal record. Clean yourself up, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, I do a crime. Oh shit, now I'm behind bars. Hey, I do a crime and I'm back behind bars. Hey, I do another crime and I'm back behind bars. You do that 30 fucking times, clearly you're not reforming yourself, right?
Well, and it could be doing 2 crimes and then back in jail. Or
exactly.
3 crimes, right? So it's probably more than 30 crimes.
100%. So going to jail 30 times versus committing a crime 30 times.
Yeah, there's a difference for sure.
There is. Like I said, they're both bad. Mm-hmm. But that going to jail 30 times, that shows you do not give a fuck. You are not going to be reformed. I do not think that someone like that should be out on the fucking street.
Yeah.
I do think that there should be a cap. If you're arrested X amount of times, I don't know how many it should be. There clearly should be some legislation written about it and not just some podcast dude making up a number on the spot. But let's just say it's fucking 10 for the sake of the conversation. You go to jail 10 times, you should serve life.
Yeah, 100%. Because clearly, like, you have a pattern, it's going to happen again.
Yep. But then that comes into play with, overpopulated prisons. And so it does get complicated and muddy. So I understand. But still. Anyways, now that they're in this halfway house together, both Joshua and Hayes almost immediately, they became close friends. And they shared in their troubled history, right? Bit of a difficult upbringing. And specifically, they share the love for robbery. Now, it's tragic to think, but this specific meeting between these two individuals would ultimately set the stage for the horrific events that would soon take place in Cheshire. And that is not where we're ending today. We are going to keep continuing.
Okay, I was like, holy shit.
I just wanted to fuck with you for a quick second.
It worked.
Good. So from 2006 to 2007, this is kind of when they had met up and were kind of getting involved with each other. And this duo, this newly formed duo of Hayes and Joshua, involved themselves in a new series of break-and-enters together. Now,
while living in the halfway house.
I'm not sure if they were still living in the halfway house, to be honest. I know they met in the halfway house.
Oh, okay.
They could still be living in it. One could be in it. One could be out. I'm not sure. But if they were in the halfway house, they were clearly going to be breaking curfews. That's for sure. But so we digress on that. But they were now together and they were doing this series of break-ins. And being the older of the two, Hayes, 44, and Joshua, 26, Hayes took a bit of a leadership role in their partnership and showed Joshua how lucrative robbery could be as a business, quote, business.
As a business.
Quote,
I was
business.
curious their ages because I felt like there would be quite a gap there.
Yeah. So yeah, Hayes is 44 and Joshua is 26. So for Joshua, many times it wasn't about the money breaking and entering. It was the thrill that we kind of talked about earlier. But if they could capitalize a bit more on it and make some money along the way, hey, why not? So Joshua was totally in for this idea. And it's not like it was a foreign concept for him either to be actually stealing when he's in there. It's just, it wasn't always the prime thing he was going for.
Right.
Now, as such, their break-in and enters would begin to develop a specific pattern under this newly formed business plan, if you will. Again, business plan, right? They began focusing their attention on gaining access to nicer homes, often choosing those with residents who were either away or asleep. Now, Joshua had gained expertise in silently entering homes, specifically since he had this desire to be there with the residents, watch them sleep. So he kind of got that like cat burglar type vibe about him. And he was able to actually manage the initial break-ins while Hayes was the one who stood back and watched to ensure the coast was clear, basically being the lookout.
Oh, okay.
Then Hayes would be, given a signal of sort, and Joshua would let him into the home alongside him. Now, this strategy followed them to move through targeted properties. It made them very efficient along the way, like a well-oiled machine. And this, with each successful break-in, their confidence, of course, grew. Just as we were talking earlier, if you commit one crime and arrested it after, 30 times, you get cocky, you get more confident along the way. That's exactly what's happening here. They began selecting more luxurious homes that promised higher rewards, that took greater risk in term of day, the time of day and length of time they spent inside. And they quickly got good at they were practicing and became increasingly proficient in executing their operations with each successful break-in. So by now, the confidence of the duo was reaching a new height. And it would be on July 22nd, 2007, that the Petit family would enter the picture. So on this day, Jennifer had went out and taken her daughter, Michaela, to the Stop and Shop grocery store in Cheshire. They were out doing a typical errand run, getting some groceries. However, it wasn't just an errand run. Michaela was, as I already mentioned, developing a passion for cooking and culinary skills. Going to the grocery store with her mom was also an experience to learn about new ingredients and expand her cooking knowledge. And for Jennifer, it was a chance to take a mundane task and turn it into something special for her and her daughter together.
I just love that so much.
As they walked the aisles, checking off items on their list and exploring everything the store had to offer, they were unaware that a pair of eyes was watching them. Joshua just so happened to also be at the store and spotted the mother and daughter duo. Now, it's not clear to me which Joshua was doing at the store, whether he was a lookout, trying to find a target or someone, or he too was just shopping for someone. But either way, when he saw Jennifer and Michaela, he knew that they fit the demographic that they were after for targeting homes and individuals.
Shit.
Their clothes, the way they held themselves, the items that they were purchasing too, all together told Joshua that this family was wealthy enough to target. So he began to tail them through the store. Then through the register to pay, and eventually to the parking lot, and even all the way to their home.
Really? Hey? Gosh. Okay, that seems like a little bit of a new level.
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay.
Joshua made note of what their home looked like, their neighborhood, what kind of place it was. And of course, it was sure to be filled with things good enough for them to steal. He quickly reported it to Hayes, and the two of them began making their plan, intending to tie up the family and steal any valuables that they had inside. At around 3 a.m. the next morning, the pair broke into the home. They made their way through an unlocked basement door, and they then through the house in the darkness. And it didn't take long before they found Dr. William Petit asleep in the sunroom, where he had fallen asleep reading the paper. Joshua grabbed a nearby baseball bat and didn't hesitate as he quickly raised it overhead and began to pummel the sleeping Dr. Petit with the bat. He struck him repeatedly over and over multiple times in the head. These blows left him with a bleeding wound gash across his head, several bruises. His eyes were now swelling shut, making it difficult for him to see or defend against any of the assailants that were now present in the darkness. To make matters worse, Dr. Petit was on blood thinners, specifically one named Comedin, It was for an irregular heartbeat, which only made his situation worse as he was now beginning to face serious blood loss from the attack.
What the fuck? This is escalated, right? Like big time. They were never harming the homeowners and shit, were they?
Nope, not before.
What the actual fuck? And who was doing that? Who was with the bat? Joshua?
This was Joshua, yes. Well,
wow.
Now I do know Joshua initially grabbed the bat and was beating Dr. Petit with it, but I'm not saying that Hayes was not also beating him. But I do know that the bat was very prevalent in this. And they were both involved in the assault.
Wow, complete pieces of shit.
Yeah. So Joshua and Hayes, now with the beaten Dr. Petit, bound him with zip ties and drug him into the basement of the house where they first entered. Once they had him secured in the basement, they strapped him to a support pole, and Joshua and Hayes proceeded back upstairs in the search for the rest of the family. They slowly made their way down the halls in the darkness to the master bedroom, where Jennifer and her young daughter, Michaela, were asleep together. While the two laid there sleeping, Joshua and Hayes attacked. And with Jennifer's multiple sclerosis, she was easily overwhelmed and had her hands and feet tied together and a pillowcase placed over her head. Young 11-year-old Michaela was no different. She too was also bound, just like her mother. The two men quickly moved on through the house to ensure that there was everything secured and ready to go. And that's when they found Haley Petit, the 17-year-old daughter, in her bedroom. She too had her hands and feet tied and a pillowcase placed over her head. And now, with the entire family secured, they made their way through the house looking for whatever they could steal, primarily looking for money. And of course, Dr. Petit in the basement, hearing his family being attacked and his house being ransacked above him. Unfortunately, neither Hayes or Joshua really found anything that they were hoping for. There wasn't a whole lot of valuables in the house. There wasn't a bunch of cash. As I mentioned, the family, though well off, lived a very modest life. They did, however, discover some personal documents that indicated Jennifer had over $30,000 sitting in a bank account. This was it. This was the big score they wanted. Each break and enter that they made was leading up to this. They just needed to get it from the bank. So they decided they would force Jennifer to make a withdrawal from the bank. They went through the house to ensure everyone knew what was at stake. No one was to make a move, or else they would face the end of a gun, which I'm not sure that they even had. But either way, we do know that they're capable of assault and had a baseball bat at least in hand. Jennifer, of course, was terrified, but it was only money. If it meant draining the bank account to ensure that their family was safe, she had no problem complying with the demands. Between Joshua and Hayes, they made a plan that Hayes would drive Jennifer to the bank and ensure that the withdrawals of the money was successful, while Joshua stayed at the house to ensure nobody else caused problems. So at approximately 9 a.m. on July 23rd, 2006, Hayes took Jennifer in the vehicle down to the Bank of America. And this is where we will leave things till next episode.
Oh boy, the fuck. I'm just like pissed over here. This is just horrible. This perfect little family.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Cliffhanger, hey? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I'm going to be asking some questions.
Well, do you have any questions right now?
No, I need to know what the fuck happened.
Well, I'll see if I can subtly answer anything without giving anything away at the same time if you have questions. I mean, if you're like, who survived? Like, I can't like...
I know.
You know?
No, my questions are like that. So, oh my gosh. I'm just like devastated right now. This makes me ill, actually.
It does.
Like
and
just ill.
They specifically targeted the family for who they were.
And I can't comprehend either why it escalated so much to this extent. Like it just seems so random to me.
I know. Well, their intent was not, as far as I'm aware, to enter the home and beat victims. But that's the first thing they did. Their intent was to bind them, to tie them up. So I'm assuming that
they probably woke up or something.
No, I don't think they woke up because they found him, then grabbed the bat, and then went to him. I think they looked at Dr. Petit and they were concerned that, you know, he could put up a fight and things could go south. So they decided to incapacitate him to some way, shape, or form before binding him.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. Now we just get to live our day knowing that people are just complete garbage.
Well, I mean, I think we already knew that.
We did, but it's just like a fucking weekly reminder, eh?
Well, it's in the fucking name of this podcast.
I know.
Like wicked and grim, it's literally because people are wicked and they do grim shit.
Yeah. But
that's what our fucking name means. If you guys didn't put that together before, now you know.
I'm also like, gosh, lock your doors. But they would have still found a way to get in, regardless of if that basement door was unlocked or not.
They would have. They 100% would have.
Yeah.
Because they were not only skilled, they were going to be determined.
Mm-hmm. I just get so pissed too when it's also too like when people happen just to be in the wrong place at the wrong time as well.
Yep. Grocery shopping.
Like just like the tiniest decision in your day could lead to this, right? Yep. Like that is just such bullshit. It's just so disgusting and disturbing. And anyway, yeah. Can you tell that I'm a little pissed over
here? A little bit. The nice thing is, though, you don't have to wait a week. You just have to wait till Tuesday.
That's very nice. Yes.
So that's a bonus.
Yep.
So, yeah. So Tuesday, we'll cover the rest of this case. Hopefully by then, Nicole has calmed down a little bit and she's not going to like seemingly assault me here.
Oh my gosh. I think you're safe.
You think? See? Think. She was not.
I mean, it's not 100%, but
exactly
99.
That I'm going to be assaulted or not assaulted?
That you're 99% safe.
That's still not
not enough for you?
No, it's still concerning. Wow. All right. So thank you for being here. You guys are incredible. You guys keep the show going. So if you guys want to check out things like our Patreon link, we have it down below. We also have tickets if you're local for our 200th episode, which is going to be recorded live. If you're not local, you can actually see the live stream of it on our Patreon if you're a member there. Yeah. I'm not going to do a whole big spiel. Links are in the description. You know it all. Give us a rating if you'd like. We appreciate that.
Did you know that this whole episode I've been kind of being able to pet a dog with my foot?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Isn't that nice,
yes, because Ripley got up and walked over like right at the beginning pretty much.
Yeah, I've loved it. Okay. I mean, she's our emotional therapy dog, so it's been helpful for me.
She really is. So.
Okay, so until Tuesday.
Until Tuesday, we hope that you guys can hang on till then. And until then,
stay wicked.